Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of January 12th, 2023. The current character challenge is Suicide Squad Deadshot. That is a 1-week repeat, and this is sort of one of the easier challenges to complete.
The absolute best.
Because like all Suicide Squad challenges, there is no requirements at normal difficulty. There's only 9 fights in each ladder at normal difficulty. And there's better rewards, which we'll talk about in just 1 second. But after normal difficulty, on Expert and higher, the required characters are Deathstroke, Lobo, and Superman, who are available at Bronze, Gold, and Gold, respectively. So, you know, if you wanted to complete them at higher difficulty, just to, like, I guess give yourself a challenge and no real other reason, you probably already have, you know, the gold characters to do it. Otherwise, you could just skip it this week, because it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So, his passive is I Never Miss, which has 2 parts. One is all aiming minigames have a 50% bigger, quote, sweet spot to attain max damage, which will be up from 200% to 250% damage. And part 2, which is if a Suicide Squad member is fighting, there is a chance for an off-screen assist from Deadshot. He's got 1,450 attack, 1,250 health, and was last available on the 17th of March, 2022.
I think it's worth pointing out that not only is the max of that mini shooting game 250, that the one level below that is 199 instead of 166. So that's pretty good. The problem is, for me, I guess, because I'm clearly not coordinated enough, the big spot in the middle is
Isn't
not
enough.
I do miss. It's I am not as good as Deadshot. I do miss lots.
Yeah. And so in terms of the better prizes, right? You get a silver pack, a gear locker, and a gold pack instead of usually what you get is a bronze pack, credits, and a silver pack.
Right, as the second, third, and fourth ladders are completed. And not fourth in terms of the order of them, but the fourth and second, third, and fourth in terms of how many you've done. So when you finish the 5th one, you still get the challenge character, but you just get better intermediate prizes.
Yeah, and so we should also probably talk about the second part. The off-screen assist is not sort of clear necessarily if you don't already know what it is. What it is there will be like this laser pointer that appears on the enemy. Or I guess it's not a laser pointer. It's like supposed to be like a sniper rifle laser sight.
Right, it's not like you're playing with your cats.
Yeah, and then it gives you an unblockable special. So that's cool. An unblockable special is already pretty good, but what's even cooler about it is that it tells you when it's going to happen.
Right, you know, so you can just
plan
fire it with abandon.
Yeah.
So the other things, I guess, that are worth mentioning that aren't described anywhere, there's a very small chance of stun on his combo ender, like just randomly for no particular reason. And his combo ender has 3 hits. So normally, combos, in terms of how much damage they do, you know, before you take into account gear, the tap combo is 2% of your attack stat, 2%, like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then of 3% if you get your combo ender. So that's 9%. Whereas the heavy combo is usually 4, 4, and 4. That's 12.
Yeah.
So if you don't get the combo ender on the light, it's only 6, twice as much on the heavy, and you get an extra hit, which generates more power than 4 hits generates more power than 3.
Yeah.
But you're still doing less damage. So Deadshot does 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 2. So he does 14% on his light combo if you get the combo ender, which is kind of neat.
And you get 3 combo ender effects.
2.
Oh,
I think the first one doesn't count. It's only the last 2 that count the combo ender
never
effects.
mind. Yeah, so basically, you know, if you're just dealing pure damage, it still makes more sense to sort of on average do the swipe. But if you've got combo ender effects, all of a sudden that math changes. And then there's a sort of double benefit to getting combo enders.
Right. So, and that matters for gears like Razagul Scimitar, Gauntlets of Azrael, Overpowered Super, and in the spirit of how we've been doing it lately, this is what you're seeing is the fight with the same gear loadout that we had last week with Kandak Black Adam, but we swapped out Suicide Squad Deadshot instead of Black Adam, and we swapped out Suicide Squad Harley Quinn instead of Killer Frost. And it's a really good team. It works really well. And I'm trying to think, is there anything... This gear loadout, actually, of Suicide Squad Harley Quinn is really interesting because it works for almost anybody with the Claw of Horus plus Master's Death Cart plus the Enchantress. The funny thing is, though, what you're not seeing is, remember we talked earlier this week during Q&A about how you only get to see the successes? So one of the failure modes of this particular team was when I tried to use Batman Ninja Joker instead of Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. So I wasn't taking advantage of Deadshot's passive, but what I was doing was boosting his splash damage, right? Because Batman Ninja Joker gives bonus splash damage to shooter or gunner teammates. Yeah. And it was worse because Batman Ninja Joker has this thing where when he tags and he's got Master's Death card, he can't do a combo properly to save his life. Maybe one hit comes into contact as the Master's Death card shoves the opponent back. Yeah. And that's it. And that's not enough to generate the power that you need so that the subsequent tag in gives you the ability to shatter all the opponent's gear at once. Mm-hmm. Nothing like Suicide Squad or Harley Quinn. So much worse. Yeah. So these are the kind of subtleties that you don't pick up on until you've actually had a chance to play them.
Mm-hmm. So we are 138 weeks into a repeating pattern that first appeared in May of 2020. That's 3 complete runs of a 43-week challenge cycle and 9 weeks into the 4th cycle. Next week should be Rebirth Jessica Cruz. And just a reminder, that 43-week cycle does not include 23 challenge characters who are totally missing. Right. And who, you kind of have to... Some of them you can get in packs in other places, and then some of them are just not really available right now.
Right.
This week's multiplayer reward is the Cloak, which becomes the Cloak of Destiny, and when it's maxed out, it gives you a crit boost, 50% more damage on crit attacks, 200% damage increase against stunned opponents, and a 20% stun chance on tag-in. This was last available on the 9th of June 2022. We are 106 weeks in a row on that pattern. That's 3 cycles of 31 rewards each, and then 13 weeks into our 4th cycle. Nothing missing from this one. Next week should be...
And we see nothing missing from this one, unlike the challenge. You're comparing to the challenge cycle.
So if the pattern holds next week, we expect to see Blackest Night Flash.
Yeah. So, interesting gear. For the longest time, it was the only gear that offered boosted damage against stunned opponents. And since then, Necron Scythe was introduced, and that's the only other gear that offers boosted damage against stunned opponents. The crit boost, which is the 50% more damage in crit attacks, is good, and the 20% chance of stun on tagging is relatively low. It would be, if it was higher, I think it would be way overpowered if you're geared out properly to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And Necron Scythe is interesting because there's a real contrast, and you could almost make the argument that Necron Scythe is potentially a little bit better because the boosted damage is against frozen and stun, but most people can't take advantage of the frozen part. Yeah. And 2 of the abilities only kick in when your health is less than 15%. So hopefully if you're playing right, it doesn't happen that often. But the part that makes Necron Scythe potentially better and makes up for the not boosted crit damage is being able to resurrect once you've knocked out one opponent.
Yeah, especially if you're somebody who can take extra advantage of it.
Like next week's Blackest Night Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking only at damage output, I think Cloak has a slight edge with a boosted crit damage. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and if you're not planning on spending a bunch of your fight in low health, you're really only getting 2 abilities with Necron Scythe.
Mm-hmm. But that second ability is potentially pretty killer.
Yeah. So that chance to stun is useful for a character that doesn't have built-in stun, but I don't know that you'd actually want to be equipping it on somebody who doesn't have a tag-in stun.
Yeah. Unless you have somebody else on the team who can consistently stun.
Yeah.
And you're sort of doing a swap in for a special.
Yeah. The absolute best, I think, is use this on characters that have that built-in stun either at the beginning or in the middle of a special. So all the Batgirls have that at the beginning of their special 1. What's interesting is because the gears that boost special 1 damage or have special 1 effects like splash damage are way more powerful than the ones that do it for special 2, then you tend to get more benefit if you're going to be leaning into this. So Batman Ninja Batman has a stun at the beginning of special 2, so he can do a huge amount of damage, but again, special 1 boosted stun damage just in a practical level just works way better.
Yeah.
And I want to mention, I mean, we're not demonstrating, but we demonstrated not too long ago of Arkham Knight Batgirl. And I think it was a bit of a revelation to me to use her. And just, people always ask, Cloak of Destiny and Necron Scythe, they will stack if you use both gears on the same person. will be super duper boosted damage. And the revelation for Arkham Knight Batgirl is when she comes to save her teammates, she will stun. And so back in the old days, I used to try to make sure she had a bar of power. But instead of that, if you put her third gear slot for boosted basic damage and boosting crit chance on basic damage, she can often knock out the opponent when she comes to save the teammate with just a heavy combo.
Which is great.
Right. And that also solves the problem of Arkham Knight Batgirl sometimes whiffs on her special one. And it's partly because I think of where she is, like her feet aren't settled when you start it.
Yeah.
And if you whiff, then all you do is stun them and you do no damage.
Yeah.
This solves that problem. You stun them, boom, boom, boom.
Heavy combo, and then it's almost as good. It's not quite as good as a special one, but it's getting there.
Yeah. And so normally it's not worth it to me to stack because, you know, if you're going to do more than enough damage to knock out your opponent, it's really only good if for fun, I guess, and if you're going to translate it into splash damage.
Yeah.
So Cloak can be great with League of Assassins Knives to do splash and damage damage on special 1 for Batgirls, and say Fourth World Godly Mace to do splash damage on special 2 for Batman Ninja Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there we go. Moving on to what we have in the store. We have the Rebirth Jessica Cruz pack for $24.99. All these prices are in Canadian. That's the information that we have access to. So that's what we're giving you.
And that's a currency that matters.
Yeah. So it doesn't unlock in the store. It is a clue to next week's challenge. And that's sort of the second piece of evidence that the cycle is not breaking, right?
And we've got a third piece of evidence now, too.
That's true. And there's also no credits, which is what makes it a terrible deal. So it's, the same price last week for Deadshot, but you also get 100,000 credits. And generally it's like...
with Deadshot, not with Jessica Cruz, right?
And generally it's about... it's not quite half price, but it's like $12.99, I think, or something, when you just get the character with no credits. So this is like a terrible deal. This is like the worst sort of version of this deal. And you're
it's
right.
like being the worst version of yourself.
We have another corroborating piece of evidence, which is also the Rebirth Jessica Cruz challenge pack for 200,000 power credits. And so this gives you a 6.16% chance versus a 2.86% chance of getting Rebirth Jessica Cruz. And it takes that sort of tiny fraction of a percent from all the other options, this is our third clue for next week's challenge. And the other thing that it has in common with the money pack is that it's a bad deal. Unless you only want like Rebirth Jessica Cruz and maybe one other character and everybody else you'd be selling back directly, then there's no advantage to buying this pack. It costs more money to get characters. There's an extra 50,000 credits every time you get a character. So unless she's really the only person you care about, then it's a bad deal and you should just buy the regular challenge pack. So there we go. We also have the character bundle Lantern Elite. That's on its second week, $24.99. Just a reminder, Yellow Lantern and Red Lantern Hal Jordan, no power credits. We have the tag team pack for $24.99. That comes with Luchador Bane, Hawk Girl, and New 52 Nightwing. 2 of them are challenge characters. One of them is a store character. So,
And, well, I will point out, though, I think lately we've been getting so much mileage out of Hawk Girl. I'm maybe trying to make the argument that she is one of the highest tier characters when we talk about multiplayer.
Yeah.
And this is why. The kind of play that you can get swapping back Harley Quinn and Deadshot, you can't do it otherwise. This strategy doesn't work nearly as well without Hawk Girl.
Yeah. So there we go. It's stuff we've had for a while. We won't go through what's in it. The character bundle Batman Universe. 58 weeks now, Most Wanted pack 65, both been around for more than a year. They're almost kind of permanent packs at this point, right?
Yeah.
Where we don't talk about anything that's always there. We're not saying that there's a bronze pack in the store. And then we have the cycle of 300th metal packs has blown up. So we've gotten 51 weeks of Aquaman and 49 weeks of Shazam and the Joker. And it's gonna be a double celebration next week because it'll be a year of Aquaman.
Right.
So there we go.
So Phantom Zone is finished. Still, Fight 62 is still broken, and last weekend's breakthrough for golds was Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, and Martian Manhunter as expected. So this coming weekend is probably Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, and Lobo. Link in the description to a Reddit thread from Devlin16 that goes over the complete breakthrough cycle. And that's it. If this were the first of the month, or if this were a week when there was an update and there was something to say about changing glitches, this is where we would talk about
Very
them in detail.
hopeful of you
Yes,
to say that.
yes, but unfortunately it's not. So we're not going to do a review. However, we do a review even with no changes once a month. It's the first week of each month, and that would have been the most recently the January 5th episode of this recap.
Mm-hmm.
Just the important thing to point out is that the challenge reset has been confirmed on the current Suicide Squad Deadshot challenge.
So there we go. That's all. To finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all the lovely folks who support us on Patreon. That's BomboBen, Console Peasant, and Edwoon at the top tier last word.
Mm-hmm.
Sinemac and Mohammed Albshaiti at the Your Message Here tier. Drew Chapman, Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, Eddydoo, and Hoshi127 on the credited level. And Chris Wolff, Scarlet, Dani, Awesomegamer241, Pavu RS, Gavin, Mallott, and Isfar E at the gratitude level. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.